In today's video, we're going to be reacting to some of the strangest clips that I could find on TikTok. Let's get into it.
The following footage is from a couple of fishermen who captured something that they have no idea what it is, and they're actually asking the public for their help in identifying this potential fish or even shark. And honestly, to me, it looks like Toothless, the dragon from How to Train Your Dragon. It's this really long black, what appears to be toothless fish. Again, this could be a shark, we just don't know. But this is weird. It's something I've never seen before, nor have they. Take a look at this and tell me what you think.
Ha salido este pescado raro, no lo conocemos nosotros tampoco, ver. Pescado raro, mire su boca. No sabemos qué es este. Es un pescado raro. Pescado raro. Apuren, apuren para darle vida a este pescado. No le sabemos su nombre, pero alguien que conozca este pescado está vivo todavía, está abriendo su boca.
Vea que está trancado la pata.
Aquí ven. Pescado raro. ¿Qué será este pescado? Cara de perro, de bulldog, miren este pescado. Un toyo. Medio raro este pescado acá que se amallaba en la red.
Just because it's black and has no teeth does not mean that looks like an adorable animated dragon. That thing looks disgusting. I mean, even though it's disgusting looking, it's a shame that it's dead. And looking into the comments, I think it's a megamouth shark, a baby megamouth shark, but I'm not entirely certain on that. So let me know in the comments if you have any idea on what that could be.
What if they've intentionally tried to skew whatever our picture is of an alien to think that, like, when an alien invasion happens, it's going to be like Independence Day, the whole sky is going to be flooded with these huge crafts? But did you know that the main inspiration for the aliens from the Alien trilogy was actually a Parasite? Yes, the main inspiration for the xenomorphs from all the alien movies was this aquatic parasitic animal called the phronema. And I gotta watch my language, so I can't say the P word, so we're gonna call them Parasites, right? So all these Parasites and all these movies that have aliens have this similarity that they need to have a host, just like the face huggers from the Alien series. They need a human host, just like these Parasites do. So if you think about it, these worms, these Parasites, really are an alien entity that has entered our body and are using our body for an experiment for whatever they please, because they put these urges and these cravings into our body just so that we feed them. So what if the aliens aren't up in the sky and they aren't huge? What if they're already here and they are just so small that we can't see, but they've actually taken over the entire world because everybody has these worms, these Parasites? And it's just such a coincidence that the movie Aliens took their inspiration from this aquatic parasitic animal. Hope somebody found this interesting. Peace and love, y'all. Happy Easter. Yeah.
I did not know that TikTok did not let people say the word parasite. That's kind of strange. And overall, the theory that maybe aliens are actually just microscopic creatures that are trying to take over the world that way, interesting theory. But the only reason why I don't believe that to be the case is because people are harming themselves by consuming these products. And you would think that if there's a parasite or an alien that's living in someone's body and they're trying to control them, why would that be what's feeding them? Because ultimately their host just ends up dying sooner. But I could also see maybe the reason why some people act very strangely or have different behaviors is because of these aliens or parasites. It's an interesting theory to think about. I don't think I necessarily believe it, but it's a fun one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
This has all just come out and people are now finding out how bad this really is. Over the weekend there's been a lot of news stories coming out regarding these patches, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen or might have used. So what's the truth here and what is going on? Well, let's have a look. Now, these patches are often referred to as snus, but they're not that. That's a Swedish version which has tobacco and which is very, very bad. Now, these things have become extremely popular in the last couple of years, with major footballers using them, lots of influencers. I mean, a lot of people do. But of course, it still contains NIC, which isn't good for you, so why are people using it? It is meant to be an alternate to smoking, but of course, people are just picking it up, and especially the younger generation. On the news stories that came out, one major topic it focused on was this kid who basically wanted to try them, got caught by his mum, so they tried it together, saying it was a pretty strong version, and she was like, why would anyone want to do that? Now, the one that they did apparently per patch contained 150 mg. I have never seen anything like that before, so what the hell? Now, while most of them contain around 10 to 20 at most, there is obviously ridiculously stronger ones you can get. It looks like they're doing a lot more tests on this at the moment, so of course we don't know the full complications, but I'll keep you posted on that. One of the main worries people have, though, is that the sort of coloured packaging, like this whole thing that happened where it was just attracting the younger generation, and apparently this is doing the same. The thing is, we know that these are reportedly a lot better than that, and the experts have said that because this just has nic, which we know what it does. It's not filled with tons and tons of chemicals, but as I say, there's a lot more coming out about it, so I'll keep you updated.
Me personally, I'm not one for smoking or chewing or anything like that. I have nothing against it, it's just not for me. Growing up, I've seen a lot of people use chewing tobacco, and it's severely messed up their mouths in the long run. But being that this is only nicotine, I don't know. But I don't blame anyone for doing it, so if that's what it takes to calm you down, I get it. My biggest weakness personally is coffee. Hey, if you haven't done so already and you're enjoying the show, give it a like. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. For everyone that's currently watching and or subscribed, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel.
The color blue was never written down.
Weird.
Like in the Bible, in like all this, like blue was never a word.
Weird.
And they would always just
They didn't have a word for that color?
No.
Okay.
But like when they would describe like the ocean
Yeah.
and stuff like that, they would describe it as like a green.
What?
And yeah. And so the theory is if you can't connect a word with a color, can you not see that color? And so they did an experiment.
That's crazy.
They did an experiment in this tribe somewhere in Africa. It was like Kenya or something, I forget. It was like the bush people.
Yeah.
And they also have never heard the word blue. So they gave this graph, and it's this graph of like 12 squares, and they're all green, right? And then there's one that's like a bluish green, but it's like very different. Like all of us be like, oh yeah, that one's different. They had these people look at it, and they were staring at it, and it took them so long to figure out which color was different because they don't know what to look for in the blue. It was weird.
Yeah.
And then they showed another one, and it was all green, and then there's one square that was just like a shade lighter of a green, but it was hard for us to see, and they could spot it instantly.
Wow.
I've actually seen this video before, and this is uploaded only 3 hours ago by Sunday Coolty, so that's kind of crazy. They've been rehashing a lot of old material. But I did look into it a little bit further, and apparently the color blue has been mentioned in the Bible. According to Google, specifically the Hebrew term, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's called Tikihilit? Tikihilit? Sorry if I offended anybody. But that word refers to a vibrant, bright blue color, so clearly the word blue is in the Bible, and apparently it's pronounced Tekelit.
If you were wondering why scientific research needs to happen, your next flight will care. GPS is very prone to issues, and it doesn't take much to jam it. You can actually do it at home, but it's not legal. Last year, disruptions occurred every day on flights around Europe. This made nations pretty nervous and start pointing fingers because it was intentional. Even so, GPS is finicky, which is why commercial planes have various backups. The thing is, they're not great. A quantum navigation system called MagNav out of Australia was recently tested. So instead of relying on satellites or the internet, this reads the Earth's magnetic field. Trapped atoms in the device respond to the Earth's magnetic field like tiny little compasses, which are then read by lasers, which are then translated by AI. This idea isn't new. Investors from Google joined a startup called Sandbox AQ, which is an AI company that came out with the first commercially available system like this last year. I think this is in the news right now because Q Control, which is who made this, is a quantum technology company, not an AI company. And now they're a direct competitor. To have two different industries tackle the same problem is really promising. And this is why we can't be cutting back on scientific research.
Even the animals are acting strange and looking for something. We'll come right back to that.
This behind me is just for attention. It has nothing to do with the video. Completely irrelevant. Is there anyone else in the Midwest and on the East Coast that has not been able to sleep for 3 nights in a row? I saw in the comments there are many of us, so if you're going through it, you're not alone. I'm really clueless to what's going on, and we've been having these geomagnetic crazy massive storms showing the aurora down in South Carolina every single month for a year straight. And before this, never. Very rare. Now, why are all the sheep on these solar panels in the middle of a field? It seems like they're looking for something that the solar panels, seem to collect. And look at this overcast. Even when the sun's out and it's a blue sky and there's no clouds at all or anything, it's almost like there's a 24/7 haze that wasn't there when I was a kid. This video is also for attention. Look at these cool clouds, you guys. I believe that this video and this video were taken on the same day. But I'll tell you what, if I don't sleep for another whole night, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind. Oh, and by the way,
The following footage comes from a pair of siblings named Josh and Crystal. They were staying overnight in a reportedly haunted hotel by the name of Hotel del Coronado in San Diego. Immediately, they began hearing odd noises and seeing shadows, specifically coming from the bathroom area. So they decided to go in there and begin filming. And what they captured left everybody astounded. What appears to be the shadow of a child running past. Keep in mind, they're not outside. The windows aren't open. They're alone in the hotel room. There are no children. But it's interesting at first. She notices a shadow and automatically assumes it's a child. But we really can't tell. It's not until the end when Josh captures what she was looking at. But the question remains, was this the ghost of a child or the spirit or entity of something acting like a child? Take a look at this footage and tell me what you think. Comment below.
I can see you. Come to me. Are you a little boy? It's okay. Come here. It's okay. I don't know if my eyes are playing tricks on me, but it looks like it's going like back and forth. You see movie? See movie? It's okay.
No. Come back.
Where?
No, you come back. Go straight. Look straight. Towards me. No. Turn towards me like you were earlier. Put your back towards me. Like you were earlier. Put your back towards me.
I don't know about this one. I have a few questions. One, if you're at a hotel, why is the fire alarm chirping off? I'm pretty certain that was a fire alarm. I might be wrong on that. And two, if you think that there's actually a spirit of any kind, I don't know if I would want to ask it to come to me. That's just asking for a bad time. It could be a demon pretending to be a child for all you know. But with the fire detector chirping in the background, I kind of think that this might be at someone's actual house.
Speaking of the ancient ruins in the Amazon, I really want to talk about the Olmecs. So the Olmecs, they were the civilization that were thousands of years before the Mayans.
Oh my gosh.
But even like the Mayans and the Aztecs talked about them as ancient people.
As their ancestors.
They discovered these giant stone heads. They don't look like South American people. Their features resemble a lot of like Africa and Asia.
Interesting.
And yeah, they think that they are the first in Mesoamerica to have a written language.
Wow.
Which would predate what we know thousands of years.
Yeah.
They did floating gardens.
Oh, cool.
So like on their lakes and stuff, they would literally have farms that were floating.
Bro, so
Like
neat.
really advanced stuff.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
sounds awesome. Do you think they ever had a time back then where they can communicate with other people across?
I think so. The Olmecs, I think it was 700 or 600 BC, they just disappeared.
Wow.
Gone. And this was before any conquistadors, anything. So like even the Aztecs and the Mayans, they had legends about them, but they're like, we have no idea
What happened
how
to
they, what happened to them. It was just empty cities.
Wow.
Yeah.
I looked into this a little bit further, and apparently these guys flourished around 1200 BCE, and their population declined around 400 BCE. That's when they really started to decline. Now here online, it does say that it's still a debate on how they declined around 400 BCE, but they factor environmental changes, volcanic activity, and interactions with other cultures that probably dwindled them even further.
Okay, major breaking news. The Pope has died at the age of 88. His death was just announced, saying at 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Pope Francis, has returned to the house of the Father. His whole life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his church. And that's pretty crazy because just yesterday we saw him, blessing huge crowds on Easter Sunday and even meeting J.D. Vance. And that's a pretty big deal because, over the last 5 weeks, he has spent, all of that time in hospital due to a case of double pneumonia. He was just discharged not long ago. And, here we are. He was one of the oldest popes in the church's history, and he passed away on Easter Monday.
Well, RIP to the Pope. I couldn't help but to laugh at some of the comments in this video because some of them say all it took was him meeting JD Vance and he just gave up. Some of the comments are really aiming hard at JD Vance and they're funny. Like, that's messed up. But again, rest in peace to Pope Francis.
I think the moon is the key to everything. The moon is obviously not what we're told. It defies the laws of physics. You can see through it, and I think it's an actual map of the real land. Our months are supposed to be based on the moon. 13 perfect 28-day months, not the weird jumble it is now. Have you heard about the moon?
I have heard some people talk about the moon possibly being our map. Let me know your theories about the moon in the comments, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of different theories about what the moon is, where the moon is, a lot of different theories. So if you have any, let me know in the comments, please.
What's so creepy is that the North Pole in that old ancient map, there's more to it. So there's a satellite image from the ESA 7 satellite. This was in 1968. It was like the first visual of Earth via satellite.
What the heck?
Okay, well then this was from Google Earth.
It's the hole to the center of the Earth.
And then this was released by NASA, I believe, 80s or 90s. You're not allowed to fly over the North Pole. But Admiral Byrd did. Apparently he had his secret diary. And then when he died, his son got it. And then when his son was trying to publish the stuff in it, he died. But Admiral Byrd talks about when he went to explore the North Pole, there was an entry to inner Earth, like hollow Earth. And he describes it as being in the Earth, lush green land beyond the ice, mammoth-like creatures, a technology advanced civilization, and meeting with a being called the Master. But apparently this Master gave Admiral Byrd this message.
You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars of barbarity, but now we must, for you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for man, namely the atomic energy. You see, our culture and science is many thousands of years beyond your race. You, my son, must return to the surface of the world with this message.
Cool. And then he died.
I have always found interest in this story, and a lot of people say that he didn't even fly over the North Pole, it was a South Pole, but he flew over both the North and the South Pole, according to the old records and what's on the internet. For all we know, maybe he didn't even fly and it's just a completely fabricated story just to keep our attention engaged with possibilities. But with that being said, I do enjoy this story. And I personally like the hollow earth theory. I don't know if it's necessarily like a whole world within the world, but there is probably some other form of life that lives deep within the earth that is completely unaware that there's even life outside of their own home. But let me know what you guys think about the Admiral Byrd story. Do you think it's real? Do you think it's fake? I'm pretty certain it's fake, but it's a fun one to think about.
Today's subject: the deep state. Who are they? What do they do? And are they even real? Kind of, sort of, yes. They're not what you think they are, but at the same time, it's exactly what you think it is. The term has been used and abused so much in politics and the media lately that it's sort of lost its true meaning. But there kind of is a deep state, and we're gonna expose them for who they really are. As with most things, it all started with good intentions after the bombing of Pearl Harbor in 1941. The Japanese just brought the war to American soil, and obviously the US had to retaliate. Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president at the time, forms a plan of action. So he consults with his good friend, Bill Donovan, a cunning Wall Street lawyer whom FDR deeply trusted. Wild Bill Donovan, as he was known, suggested starting an intelligence agency within the United States, one that would have a centralized source of power. So he was put in charge of America's newest department. You guessed it, the U.S. Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, whose job was to gather intel, aka spy, and figure out how to use that information to devise operations that would help them during wartime. And the office was supposed to be dismantled after the war was over, which is what espionage was originally intended for, war. The OSS was by design made to operate above, or should I say under the radar of the law, in order to be able to do what they need to do with no restrictions. Essentially, absolute power for the safety of the country. Wild Bill loved having parties, which he often held to discuss plans and operations within the OSS at his house in Georgetown, a wealthy neighborhood of Washington, D.C. It's at these parties that he would network with, plan operations, and hire new spies for the OSS. Anyway, the OSS did their job, planned a few crazy missions here and there throughout the war, and in 1945, when the war ended, the office was dissolved. At least it was formally dissolved by President Harry Truman, but as you may know, when absolute power is given, it's hard to take it away. When tensions began to rise between America and the Soviet Union in the years following during the Cold War, those original OSS guys had the perfect excuse to come back. To, you know, keep the country safe and beat the Soviets, right? But other lawmakers strongly opposed it, claiming that this much power to a secret underground group is exactly how governments collapse. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, every time. But President Truman was convinced they needed to do something, and so officially created, now you can say it, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, in 1947, who would spy, gather intelligence, and low-key do whatever they want, all for the purpose of national security. And they really did do whatever the they wanted to, as long as they were able to rationalize it as doing it for some greater good. Operations that were intended to manipulate and fundamentally reshape the trajectory of our societies and the governments of our world. Like MKUltra, where unsuspecting victims were dosed with drugs for experimentation on mind control. Operation Shamrock ushered in the first ever domestic wiretaps, normalizing spying on your own citizens. Operation Chaos, falsely arresting many anti-war activists so the military can do whatever they want. Dozens of confirmed CIA assassination attempts on world government officials. Operation Mockingbird, where journalists were hired as agents of influence, shaping news coverage to align with how the government wanted us to think. COINTELPRO, a series of covert and very illegal projects that ran misinformation campaigns aimed at discrediting groups the government didn't like. The SAC-46, a literal heart attack gun the CIA created, meant to assassinate targets staged as a heart attack with no way to trace it. Several CIA-backed coup attempts in places like Greece, Indonesia, Guatemala, and many others to illegally overthrow leaders they just didn't like, all conducted by agencies like the CIA under the guise of public safety. But these agencies are just hired intelligence officers that just executed the plans. These plans don't just appear out of thin air. There's someone or a body of people who are orchestrating them and giving them to these intelligence agencies to execute. It's said that those wealthy, unelected men from those Georgetown parties are the ones who continued orchestrating these operations behind a veil that the public couldn't see. A group of people who can essentially plan whatever operation they want and not face public repercussions from it themselves. There have even been cases of lawmakers getting threatened and blackmailed to ease their scrutiny of these operations so they can keep doing what they want. These ops were clearly starting to get way out of hand, and that's why they were kept as classified operations. No one needed to know about them. But if they ever did get exposed, the public-facing government would be the one facing major backlash, so they started to take note. In 1963, just 1 month after the JFK assassination, former President Truman, the one who established the CIA, submits a letter insisting the CIA should be abolished. And this is coming from the man who authorized the dropping of 2 nukes on Japan, essentially telling us the CIA is becoming a threat to democracy, which started the unraveling. Enter Senator Frank Church, one of the OG whistleblowers of history, who in 1975 started to expose the atrocities the CIA was committing. These hearings confirmed the small group of unelected officials who used government resources to do sketchy, unethical, and outright illegal shit for the past 20 years, all in secret, so no one takes accountability for coming up with any of these operations. And that's exactly what the deep state is. This idea of an organization like the OSS, the CIA, that is able to perform secret activities above the law under the guise of national security sets a precedent. One that continued and created many other 3-letter intelligence organizations that all perform on a similar principle. The people working at these organizations are not the deep state, they're just doing their job, but rather the ones devising these plans that are then carried out by these organizations, knowing that they can do anything they want and face no consequences. Plans that manipulate the outcomes of elections, defame political leaders, protect other ones, make up stories about foreign interference. The puppet masters of our entire democracy. After the Church hearings, regulatory committees like the US SSCI were formed, whose sole purpose was to tell intelligence agencies like the CIA what they can and can't do. Obviously, the agencies pushed back, but eventually the committee was set into place and oversaw operations to make sure they were within legal and ethical bounds. And so the deep state was mostly dissolved, or at least their ability to do whatever they want was. But if national emergencies like Pearl Harbor or the Cold War was enough to establish agencies like these in the first place, then America just needed a new crisis to bring the deep state back. Oh yes, That, 910 plus 1. Once we had a new reason to deem a foreign threat within the country, spies, bureaucrats, and intelligence officers needed emergency powers again to keep the country safe. And new agencies with similar powers were created that can perform these tasks, like the Department of Homeland Security. And guess who were the ones that came up with this idea and all the operations that soon followed? Yup, the deep state is kinda back. Once you give unrestricted power to anyone, they will not give it up, even if it takes decades to take it back. Even Kash Patel, the current director of the FBI, admits there is a deep state of operatives behind the workings of America's intelligence agencies that he's working on weeding out. And that's what they are, a small group of unelected officials who form a permanent government that underlies whoever's currently in power, who do essentially whatever they want, leading operations that literally shape the thoughts of our society and the rest of the world as well, and operate outside the regular workings of government as dictated by the Constitution. We only know about the old operations from 30, 40, 50 plus years ago because enough time has passed that those who led them are no longer around and can now be declassified, and is why they were holding on to the JFK files for so long. Obviously, the more recent ops are still very highly top secret because they're probably still happening right now. But remember, it's just a theory. It could just be well-meaning, good-intentioned people coming up with all these plans, and no one is actually abusing the limitless power they were given.
Now, me personally, I actually believe this. I think that there is actually someone that's in charge over everything, and it's known who they are, not by main employees, but the big heads of those officials, they definitely know who the ones are that are in charge that's kind of pulling the puppet strings. I am almost absolutely certain that that's the case.
Guys, okay, this is gonna sound insane. I am off trail hiking, about a mile off the trail, just kind of meandering through the trees, and I almost walked right through these two trees, and I got a feeling and I stopped dead in my tracks. Let me show you the two trees right here. Right here. All right, so I'm actually on the back side of this, I guess you would say, because let me show you where I'm at. Just the mountain kind of drops off right down here, and so I came from the road up there all the way down and have been meandering along the mountainside right here and almost walked through these two trees right here. I don't know what I believe in when it comes to portals, but I can tell you that I'm not going to walk in between these two trees. What if I vanish out here and you guys never see me? And that was it. So, I'm going to walk around.
This is now likely the biggest and craziest news of the century. Seriously, we have not had anything this big for a very long time, and some things could happen in the next few days that change our lives forever. You may remember this planet, K2-18b, which I've spoken about a few times before. A couple of years ago they discovered this planet and some stuff that was kind of surrounding it, which they said could be habitable, but now they've spotted something absolutely insane. Genuinely can't really believe I'm even saying this. Researchers found two gases coming off of the surface of this planet. Yeah, not a big deal. But those gases are only produced by life forms, especially ones that are in the sea. And it's believed this planet could be completely ocean, or at least a lot of ocean. The crazy thing though, one of the gases is dimethyl sulfoxide. Now, what is this? Well, it's most commonly produced by wood and trees. Yeah. This professor who is in on all of the research has said that what we find out in the coming days could change the world. There is a 90% chance that there is life on this planet. Of course, I'm not talking about full-blown aliens and people like us, but microscopic creatures that could be living under this ocean. And what he said is that if this is the case and we do find some sort of form of life on this planet, it is almost 100% certain that there is other life out there, and it's a very common thing in the universes. There'll be lots coming out in the next 24 hours, and then there's going to be a lot more going on for the next year, but within the next year, we should know for sure. Hit that follow button, I'll keep you updated.
UFO the size of 2 aircraft carriers followed an airplane across Alaska for nearly an hour. Radar saw it, the crew drew it, and the pilot never flew again. This is the most credible UFO encounter in the history of aviation. Captain Tarauchi, a well-qualified pilot with over 10,000 hours of flying time under his belt, was flying across the Alaskan Triangle. Out of nowhere, 2 glowing aircrafts appeared from underneath the airplane and started flying exactly in sync with it. And then a third massive object appeared. It was completely black, no blinking light. Crew said the cockpit started getting really hot. They felt pressure changes, and despite any maneuvers they tried, they could not shake the UFO. The captain called Anchorage Air Traffic Control, and at first they did not see anything on the radar. Then suddenly a massive radar return appears. No ID, no pinging, no other like radar-y stuff happened. Air Force Base has since confirmed that those readings did appear. The FAA conducted an investigation, and the top person who investigates these things, his name's John. The FBI, CIA, and Pentagon all held a private briefing with him, and he later blew the whistle and told everyone that they took all of the data, all of the readings, everything, and they were told to never speak of it again. After the investigation, Captain Tarauchi was quietly removed from his position and given a desk job where he would never fly again.
I mean, that's a pretty interesting story, but man, this lady's got some really blue eyes and a red nose. I think that this is the lady that what was that? I think that this is the lady that did the Fruit of the Loom stuff. Let me know what you guys think of her content. Do you want me to add some more of it? She's got a lot of different topics to talk about. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching these clips with me, and I hope you guys had a good Easter if that's a holiday that you celebrate. And with that being said, have a good day.